What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with 7 reasons to avoid buying the Samsung Galaxy A05s. So without further ado, let's get started. Now overall, I'm a big fan of the Samsung Galaxy A05s. I think for a very entry-level Android device, we're really getting a lot of value here, and this phone actually is really packed full of features. And of course, compared to a more premium $1,000 Android smartphone, you shouldn't expect to get everything here that you would get with a much more expensive device. So that does make a lot of sense. However, I did want to make this video kind of going over 7 things that you're not getting here that you would find with a more expensive Android phone. Most importantly, I don't want anybody to buy this device expecting that they're going to be getting features that are not present here. Now, the first thing I want to go over is that with the Samsung Galaxy A05s, there is no support for 5G connectivity. Now, at this point in 2023, you can certainly still get by with just 4G LTE, but on the other hand, I feel like if you're going to go through all the time and effort of buying a brand new smartphone, you may as well get one that does support your carrier's latest and greatest network, which as of now is 5G. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no downsides with having a phone with 5G connectivity. Nowadays, they've gotten the processors with 5G connected phones really efficient as well, so it's not like 5G takes up a lot of extra battery on your device. So the fact that 5G is not present here certainly is a downside with the Galaxy A05s. The second reason to potentially avoid getting the Galaxy A05s is because of the display that we're getting here on the device. Now, for what it is, being a low-end Android smartphone, we actually are getting quite a few impressive display features here, but it still is lacking quite a bit compared to the more premium options out there. For starters, I do appreciate that we're getting a 90Hz refresh rate with the display, so that does make things a bit smoother compared to 60Hz, but at the same time, for the more modern, up-to-date, latest and greatest smartphones out there, those devices tend to have 120Hz refresh rate displays. We're also getting IPS LCD display technology here, and that is a downgrade compared to AMOLED, which we find with more premium Samsung smartphones. On a more positive note though, I do at least appreciate that we're getting a very bright display here with the device, and it is very large at 6.7 inches. We're also getting pretty small bezels all throughout. However, up top here, we do have a notch, and I'm really surprised that in 2023, there even are smartphones that are being launched right now with notches, because I thought that was something that we'd be leaving back in the 2010s. Now moving on, another shortcoming of the Galaxy A05s is that there is no 4K video recording. Now thankfully with this device, we can record content in 1080p for both the rear and front cameras, but there is no support for 4K video. Now that's especially important because nowadays, most people tend to have 4K TVs, and if you want to take video with your smartphone and have it be on your TV at the full quality possible that the TV is capable of showing it at, you simply cannot do that here because video recording maxes out at 1080. So while 1080p isn't necessarily a deal breaker for most people out there, if you are someone who tends to take a lot of video with your smartphone, and especially if you're using your device to capture various memories that you tend on keeping for a long time, maybe you're taking videos of family, for example, that you'll be watching decades into the future, then you might want to consider going for a phone that does actually support 4K video recording. Another shortcoming with the Galaxy A05s, and this one's actually really important to me, and that is that there is no support for NFC. Now, if you're not familiar with NFC, that's basically the technology that's used for tap and pay. So if you do want to make mobile contactless payments using services such as Samsung Pay or Google Pay, you simply cannot do that here with the Galaxy A05s. Now, I know for me personally, any devices that I use that have NFC in them, I do use that feature quite a bit in real life. When I'm at the grocery store, for example, or really anywhere else where tap and pay is supported. I prefer to do that versus going into my wallet to pull out a credit card. Now, if you do happen to buy the Galaxy A05s and you still want support for tap and pay, then you can always pair up a smartwatch with a device that does support that. For example, the Pixel Watch 2 does have NFC in it, so if you pair up that watch with this smartphone, you can still use the watch for tap and pay, it's just that you can't use the phone itself. Another disappointment with the Galaxy A05s is that there is no ultra-wide camera. Now we are getting quite a few cameras here with the device, but we're not getting that specific camera. So there's a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera to assist with portrait mode, and a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. And then up front here for the selfie camera, that is 13 megapixels. But I find ultra-wide cameras to be really useful in real life. If I'm out and about, for example, maybe there's a large building I want to take a photo of, or maybe there's just a lot of scenery around me and I want to capture all of that in one image, having an ultra-wide camera really does help a lot. In comparison, the depth sensing camera I feel like isn't even totally necessary because there's other devices I've used that can do portrait mode without a dedicated depth sensing camera. And then the macro camera, while that is nice to have, I do find ultra-wide cameras to be a lot more useful. So I wish that we had an ultra-wide camera instead of these other additional cameras instead. Here's how things look on the camera app. This is the main rear camera right now. Then from here, we can go over to the More tab and get to the macro camera. Where is it? Right there. And with the macro camera, you can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. Exiting out of there, we can go over to portrait mode to get those nice blurred out backgrounds. And I do appreciate that we at least have the ability to adjust the amount of blur here as well. And then flip around to the front-facing camera. You can take selfies. There's me right there. There's even an option for group selfies, so it crops out a little bit. And you can do portrait selfies or standard selfies as well. So again, as you can see here, we are getting a lot of different cameras and camera features with this device, and the actual cameras with this phone are quite good. It just would have been great if we did have an ultra-wide camera in addition to everything that we're getting here. The next thing this phone is lacking are stereo speakers. So stereo speakers, you typically find that with more mid-range and premium devices, so I'm not surprised that we're not getting that here with the A05s. But maybe you're using a device right now that has stereo speakers and you expect that every smartphone has that feature. Well, the reality is not every smartphone does have that feature, and this one doesn't have that. So what I mean by stereo audio is that with a phone that supports that, it would be getting audio out of both the main speaker on the bottom of the phone and also the earpiece. But in the situation for the A05s, the earpiece is used for phone calls, but for nothing else. So if you're watching a video or you're listening to music, for example, you're only going to be getting audio out of the main speaker in the bottom and not both speakers, which in theory would give you a more immersive audio listening experience. The good news though is that the main speaker that we're getting here on the device still is very good, so it's not like you're going to have a horrible time when you're listening to music or watching videos. But again, it could have been better. And the last shortcoming of the Galaxy A05s that I want to mention here is the build materials of the phone itself. Now there are a few good things going for it. I actually like this material on the back. I like that it's kind of a more matte finish, so it doesn't really pick up too many fingerprints, and also it has this cool wavy look to it. But beyond that, the phone is completely made of plastic besides the display, which is made of glass. So plastic is a lot more prone to getting scratched up as time goes on. So I would recommend pairing this phone up with some sort of case so that you can get a bit more longevity out of it. So again, for the materials that we're getting here, I feel like Samsung did do a good job making the phone feel as premium as it possibly could. This phone certainly doesn't feel cheap by any means, but at the same time, just know that plastic really isn't that durable in the long term. But I hope you enjoyed my video on 7 reasons to avoid buying the Samsung Galaxy A05s. Again, overall, this is a really good phone, and it's a great value considering that it is meant to be an affordable Android device. But at the same time, I just wanted to point out some things here that the phone is lacking so that there aren't any potential surprises if you do happen to buy one. I don't want anyone expecting this phone to offer every feature out there only to find that it does lack certain things. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. But this is Kevin here. This is the Galaxy A05s, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of your day.